I call this public session to order. And will you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, changes to the agenda.
Yes.
Okay,
I'd like to add a nomination for Carolyn Hendricks, JGS School Secretary. Do I have to say the effective dates?
It would be helpful.
Effective August 2nd, 2021. Also an internal transfer for Abigail Coulters from RMS classroom teacher to JGS classroom teacher, effective.
it's just a transfer, so.
It's, yeah, so immediately, yeah.
Immediately.
Okay. So we have those two additions to the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. And everyone's present, so we don't have to do a roll call vote. So those in favor of the changes, aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain. All right, 700. Any other changes to the agenda?
I have another change for the agenda.
Alicia?
I'd like to move to approve Charles Deschaines' request to receive his sick day buyback and honor it before August 6th, 2021. With a note that this motion does not constitute precedent as these requests are taken on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Second.
Patty? Thank you. And all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, that carries 700. All right, so that's things added to the agenda. Okay. Public comment.
All right, so the process for public comments is pretty simple. If you are online, feel free to use the hand raise feature. Just please note, use your first name, last name, and town of residence. And then just make sure that you're adhering to the policy that is listed on screen. Also, if you are in person, you are also free to make a public comment, just adhering to the same rules as listed above in what I said. All right, I'm not seeing anything online or in person.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. After our meeting last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I was able to have the privilege of working with the 3 middle school math teachers, as well as the assistant principal who oversees curriculum instruction in the middle school and high school, to address some matters relative to curriculum and instruction and assessment. Basically, we took a look at the state assessment from last year, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, understanding, of course, it was a year that was different than most, and of course, carried on from the previous year as well. There were some good pockets. There were some areas that we certainly need to improve upon. And so that was really the focus of this, was writing some goals after having discussions about best practice, ways of helping students to have catch-up growth, basically, over the course of years, and how to utilize data to help support that entire process. And so the team generated their own goals around student achievement, as it measures, actually there's conversation about student growth as measured by MAPS assessment, and also student achievement as measured by the state assessment. working to align something that we've been talking about for about 3 years or so, about making sure that the information that we provide to learners and their families about how their learning is going, so grading, right? So the way we communicate that we are accurate, that what we say, they understand, that it also is very closely aligned as much as possible with what is expected of everyone throughout this entire state. And so there are some action items around that having to do with a few different pilot programs and so forth they want to do, and some curriculum revision. I'll be meeting again with them on Friday to develop some templates that or exemplars, I guess you could say, having to do with the templates that we have in order to continue to do some curriculum work, as well as to finish off the action planning for that specific group of individuals in the middle school. So the work that they want to do, even though they haven't seen the 5-year plan work that's going on, that the administrators continue to work on, and they met again for 3 hours this morning, it aligned very nicely with where we want to be going and the timeframes we want to be going. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited that really they developed this and brought their thinking to the table, and we're creating the action items, and it's good. So we have some more work to do, and the work that all of that they want to incorporate, really, that means that we have to meet probably 2 more times this summer to finish up the work so that they can start off the year well. But it involves, as an example, there's a lot of information about the state assessment and the depth of knowledge that you have to have for that. We have been talking about critical thinking and complex reasoning for years, and that's not certainly anything different than what we are used to, except that in going and reviewing the questions that are being asked of our learners, making certain that we have to go back to our documents and make sure that the complex reasoning really matches the proficiency levels well. I would say that we need to step it up a notch or 2. So that work is being done, and that was a consensus of the group. Other things that are not specifically related to curriculum, but related to communication and technology. One of the items in our communication plan that was developed by the community and myself and a few other individuals a couple of years ago was to really do an audit of our digital systems here, our communication systems, so web to school, school messenger, and so forth. Now, within that communication plan process, we hired someone to oversee that. And some of that work that he's overseeing and that we hope to launch in the fall, is a new website, a new app on their phone for being able to communicate through School Messenger, and just an improved internal system of how all of the systems get updated, and so that we have accurate information. One of those things is web to school. Web to school, when we did basically a map of what connects with what and what do we need to work well in order to have efficiency, web to school, our student information system, was the key. And so we've done a lot of work throughout the spring and the summer to be able to improve the data input into those systems. And one of those things that both the parents in our communication committee, and also just realizing that we needed to do it for good data purposes so that we can data mine better for decision making, is to have more accurate registration processes at the beginning of the year. And on the parent side, not just accurate, but a process that doesn't require them to take a packet of 20 pieces of paper, fill it out for one child, and then start again for the next child. So people who have already been in the system will be provided the digital platform. They can change it on their own. They'll have a password. Those who are coming new to our system will be given very explicit instructions on how to load their information into the platform. So to help us be, I would say, perform things better, make sure we have our data in there sooner, and also to provide everyone out there who has one or more children the efficiency of being able to make sure that they get accurate information and they have to just check boxes as opposed to constantly signing papers after papers after papers. And there's places to upload documents if they need them as well. So that's some work that's going on right now, and we're continuing to work on that.
So who is on this team besides me? It says we.
It's really actually our office. So Leslie, myself, Nick does a little bit of this, but Leslie's really the one overseeing it with myself and Adele. So Adele is a big piece of that. So we've been meeting with her to shift her role around a little bit to make sure that we have more efficiencies.
So Leslie's a techie in the group.
Leslie has a strong background in tech and in information systems, so making sure that the systems all work well with one another. Yeah, so she's been very helpful.
I have to say, I'm excited about this. There overwhelmingly, the feedback received at the communications committee was this sort of online process, especially for forms and registration, was really wanted from families. So
Yep.
I'm really excited to see it come into life.
Well, and imagine on the first day of school, if Nick can actually post pictures of the first day of school without, with a
Waiting
certainty
for
that we actually have permission
right,
to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, rather than waiting for a month to get those permissions pulled to us. That's something simple, but it's a big deal.
Could you pass on a gratitude to the math team that's been working? That's really extraordinary that they're putting that much commitment into this. And I know getting a cohesive, something that's across the grades, something that aligns with the state standards. It's hard when you're in teaching, and especially with math, you have these structures you have to go by, and it's hard to do this work during the school year, and that they've committed this time and are continuing it and just saying, oh, we need to do more. We're going further. It's very exciting. And if you could just.
Yeah,
pass
I'll
on
definitely
gratitude to that.
definitely do that. Friday, I'll let them know that that you and the board have expressed gratitude toward that. Just the goals, align the middle level math progressions with CCSS and SAS, those are acronyms, with ICANN statements, making sure that they're readable for all students and also teachers, making sure that, all the complex reasoning's there. Goal number 2, by the end of the school year, the middle level will have 80% alignment with summative grades and summative state assessments. 100% alignment would be almost impossible. And the goal would be that, if sometimes you have learners who do exceptionally well and then don't, and then you have the reverse as well. So you have usually 80% would be really great. And part of doing that, they realize they want to pilot the what we would consider where we're going with our grading system. They want to pilot it right now, which means there's got to be a massive amount of communication, and the paperwork and the documents, the background work has to really be solid before they move forward. But it would make it so much easier. They want to communicate to families and to the learners that, listen, we're going to be able to tell you where you're at and with descriptors of how you're doing and why you're doing it, but you're always going to have the opportunity to improve. And so if you're, have a 2 right now, that can shift at any point in time throughout the course of the year, but we're going to work on that and improve on that. So they're good. And then the last goal was about proficiency goals, raising them, and not just there are 3 categories within the state assessment: proficiency or above, approaching, and then below. So they categorize different percentages, shifting the weight from year to year. It's going to take some time. It won't flip immediately.
One exciting thing to work on.
Yeah, and they looked at the data to do that, so it was really good. And they're smart goals, so it's good.
Great. Anything, other comments for superintendent's report? John?
I just was wondering about the status of the learning management system and where we are on.
So yeah, Otis is the learning management system that we have purchased and decided to go forward with. Currently, more data is being uploaded into that system. So if I were to summarize, and this will be a topic of next Monday's curriculum, education committee. And we'll talk more about the draft plan because it hasn't been approved by the board yet, but there are some definite themes having to do with education over the next several years that we're talking about. One of them is improvement of curriculum. So once, this year, making certain that we are, by the end of the year, having all our curriculum documents and are right the way we want them, so that we can go off in the various directions of integration, STEM, STEAM, what have you, but that we have the foundation set once and for all the way we want it. Then there's a whole portion of collaboration, right? So a system of that, if you don't have a system of collaboration, you can't get to a system of innovation. So collaboration being professional learning communities, we've talked about that for a couple of years. We have a more serious, intentional implementation process for that, more so at the elementary schools because, but anyhow, all the way through the district. And then that involves data, using data properly. So it's things that we do anyway. Teachers work on curriculum, teachers look at data, teachers instruct. So it's basically, we're saying we're going to improve instruction, we're going to improve our collaboration with one another, and we're going to make sure that that what we're teaching is known and we understand what to do when students know it or don't know what's happening with their learning. So then what kind of, in the whole scheme of things, the Otis is what houses it all. So all the data, both the state assessment, MAPS assessment, everything, all of that gets loaded in. So that if a student has been here, say 5 years, they'll have longitudinal graphs right on their own system to see how they're doing. Plus their the data that is developed by the in-class assessments and so forth, that can also be done through that process. It will also house eventually all of the curriculum documents. Everything will be in that system. So on the 26th of August, we're going to start full district implementation in the sense of professional development. So in the morning for about 2.5 to 3 hours, the elementary will work with the trainers from Otis, and in the afternoon, the secondary will work with them. They'll work with them on the same subject matter of Otis, but it looks different at the two levels. But the subject matter that we're starting off with, because it's the most accessible to, the easiest to help the teachers be able to get in there and really start working with it, as opposed to just kind of gaining understanding and saying, I'll play with it sometime, is assessment. So they're going to be able to develop assessments with it. They're going to be able to utilize the assessment data that's given already in the system. So that's what they're going to be starting off with in the beginning of August, or the beginning of school, end of August.
It's really exciting because it sounds like it's such a powerful tool if we learn how to use it right.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's going to be a steep learning curve too.
It's going to take years. Yeah, absolutely. There are some who have gotten fairly good with it. And so as we develop internal capacity, those individuals will help.
When you talked a lot about curriculum and preparing the curriculum, so it can be entered into the learning management system. Do you feel like that's going to be in fairly good shape, or is that also something that's going to take more time?
Yeah, we discussed that at our recent admin retreat, and we felt, and really Susan was the one who brought this forward, and in short, basically said it's absolutely essential that we utilize our CIA team, which is going to be within the next couple of weeks, be putting out some invites to be a part of that and to apply for that kind of reshaped group of individuals, have them leading efforts across the district all year long, whether it's professional development days, whether it's early release days for the elementary school, whether it's 2 hour, like we're going to meet for 2 hours. Every once in a while we get substitutes for 2 hours to cover Probably not have full-blown days, that's unlikely going to happen, but do it over the course of years to focus on making sure that math is done properly throughout by the end of the year, that English is done and so forth. We have a really good start. Much better. Obviously, we did this work years ago. But I do believe that it is feasible to get it done by the end of the year. If not, then it will definitely be done by mid-summer next year. Yes. For that to be situated across the board in all subject areas,
When you talk
with
about
the exception of STEM, perhaps, because it might be too new.
When you talk about CIA, what does the I stand for?
Instruction. Yeah. We talked a little bit about the fact that we started that team, we kind of piloted that process last year with shared decision-making with teachers and administrators, and having the curriculum group, the instruction group, and the assessment group, and the fact that I felt that I made a mistake because you can't separate them. They work. I mean, even Danielson, when we go through evaluations with instructors, your assessment and is constant. You're constantly assessing in order to know what you need to teach, literally in the moment. So good instructors do that all the time. So to separate instruction and assessment and curriculum was a poor choice. It made logical sense, but it needs to flow together.
Anything else?
One question.
Mhm.
Are you taking any vacation this summer?
I did. I went, took a vacation the week after school was out. I went to Puerto Rico and that was fun. Saw iguanas walking all over the place. That was so, it's like we have chipmunks and squirrels and they have 3-foot lizards. Oh, it's so cool. I have to say, it's interesting when you go to different places, you kind of find out exactly what you're interested in and what you're not interested in. And I don't like being around people. when I'm away, I'm like, so crowded spaces don't do well. We had a great time at the beaches and in the
John's
rainforest,
making
right?
note of that.
Yeah, I
Does
know.
not like
John's like,
people.
do not travel with Ruben at all because he doesn't want to be around me. No, I really like people.
Really
Like I can take a day of it, and then after a while, it's like, let's just go hiking.
Yes.
Like
let's
I
go to the rainforest.
yeah, let's go to the
And
rainforest.
that's COVID too. I mean. it
Yeah,
is
and that
so
might be it too. I
hard
just like,
to be
I'm-
in any group of people right
Yeah.
now. It is very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is- yeah.
Yeah.
I did slip on some mud. It was very rainy, like wet, and I just had shoes that probably.
so you took a
slid
week.
and mud all over me.
You took a week. Are you gonna take any more time?
I have another week at the second week in August.
Okay, good.
And we'll go to Maine.
Okay. Well, you really don't need to disclose your location.
Just-
That's kind of the point.
Just disclosing the location. in case-
He's at an undisclosed.
But there won't be people around. So it'll be good.
In Maine,
Yeah,
in August?
Just some family.
Okay,
They don't count.
It's off the beaten path.
okay. Very good, very good. Okay, let's move on. All right, consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Second? Alicia, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain. Motion carries 700. Okay,
Can I
action item.
congratulate you on Christopher Gooder Brown's hiring.
Mm.
Extremely excited about that. To have a certified math teacher in high
Mhm.
school is absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
So great work.
Thank you.
Action items. First up is the propane contract. Wasn't
Yeah,
that,
that's-
didn't we table that from last week?
We tabled it because we were talking about bids,
Yes,
and as it turns out, when we originally signed the contract, it was $43,000 in 16 propane tanks that was provided by Sierra Deli, which we didn't pay for. And that the buyback cost of those things reduces so much per year over time. And as it stands right now, it's approximate buyback cost is about $38,000. So if you add the $38,000 to the rates of the other suppliers, because that's what it would
we
cost
have
us
to get out of the contract.
to get out of the contract, okay? we're better off running closing at the $1.41. Yeah, $1.41 per gallon for propane with Sierra Deli. So I'd make a motion that we authorize the superintendent to reach an agreement with Sierra Deli and lock in that price at $1.31 per gallon for propane.
Thank you, Charlie.
Second.
John, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain. Oh, sorry, opposed, abstain. All right, 700. Thank you. The lease for the Eversource transfer, the transformer, new transformer.
So we talked about it today. Yeah, there's a story, but we'll go fast. We talked about it today in the facilities committee meeting. Lots of things to talk about in facilities lately. A lot of those things are good. This was not particularly good. So not this past storm, but one of the storms beforehand, we had some issues with the transformer. We thought, hey, we'll call Eversource up and they'll be able to help out and get this all fixed. We own the transformer, apparently. We are going to still continue to check into that a little bit, but we've owned that, I guess, since the 1970s. And so that it's damaged. It needs to be replaced. There's nothing we can do about that. There's also some possible remediation that we have to do around because of the damage that was done, I would say. And so this Eversource is saying, hey, for the amount, we would increase the amount of power we would have, but that would be about $270, I think, a month, maybe, upwards of $300 a month to lease as opposed to owning it ourselves. Why do that? Well, if something goes wrong and that transformer has problems and ends up, say, I don't know, damaging one of our rooftop units or something like that, then they're responsible for it. We'd like them to be responsible for those things as opposed to us being responsible for a 50-year-old transformer.
Is that like
Yeah, and the
standard?
damage that can be done as a result of it.
Like, but business entities have to lease transformers or?
We
own
thought
them?
we did not know. We
I've
own
never
that.
heard of that. That's very
We
interesting.
contacted them and said, fix it. And
Right.
they all came out and no, you
You own it.
own it. So
Is that the only one we own?
I don't believe that
Good
is the
question.
case. I think there are two.
Is there a
I think it's the
way
only
of-
one we own at this campus right here. But we are going to look into that further because it's a point of interest to us right now. Because again, we've had some crazy weather and that stuff's going to
Wow.
likely continue to take place and we
See
don't
if you
need
can
that.
get
to
a
happen.
deal up too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
two for,
Two for
Yeah.
They
one.
give us a better deal.
yeah, or at least reduced, I don't know. Okay, well, that's exciting. Okay,
Great.
so we needed, this is an action item, so I guess we
What are we
don't need an
acting on?
approval to do that?
There's no action to take at this time.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Then the other item that was added is the buyback. And Alicia, you provided us with language on that. So we just,
Before you do that,
Okay.
there was a question about, at one point, maybe it was either last meeting or a meeting that was nearby that we've had, about, other individuals who may have resigned or retired, but later on in the year. And so they wouldn't have their buyback till the following year.
right.
I have confirmation that there aren't any individuals who are receiving buybacks who
Haven't been approved,
haven't been approved yet.
just this.
So for instance,
person. We
this
need to
person
motion.
right here is the motion, yeah, but
Okay.
if there were anything else that you wanted to do, it would need to be also approved. So if you had a specific individual in mind or whatever, you would have to make a motion for that.
So apparently there aren't any others.
This is the only one who I believe who has asked. This is a request from this
Okay.
individual.
Okay. So
Do you want me to reiterate the motion?
just, yeah,
Sure,
make sure
okay.
everyone's on the same
Um,
page.
Or I'm moving to approve Charles Deschaines' request to receive his sick day buyback and honor it before August 6, 2021, with the understanding that this motion does not constitute a precedent, as these requests are taken on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you. Happy second.
A second.
Thank you, Lisa. And all those in favor?
Okay.
Aye. Oppose, abstain. Okay, 700. Thank you. Charles. All right, so we're up to policy. We have a first reading.
So we'll be talking about this policy at policy committee this coming week.
Again,
But we figured we put it on the first reading so that if you have anything to give, you look at it and read it and say, hey, Alicia, who's chairs that committee, this is something I want you to look at or to think about as you guys do your work on Thursday, so that we can have that second reading the following board meeting. Reason why we wanted to make sure that that timeline was a little bit faster than usual perhaps is partly because of the web to school progress that we need to make sure that we have student acceptable use policies that are up to date for the parents to read, sign off that they've read and then agree to. And right now, the one we have is looser
Fall short.
than this one right here.
Can I ask what areas will this be accessible to families? So they'll get it with a form to sign off.
So they'll log into the system. There'll be two boxes, I guess you could say, on the side. One will say announcements, another one will say important documents. And so it will be on our website, of course, but it would also be in that area in web to school. So they'd be able to go over and click on anything that they need to read.
And then they have to sign off.
Is there
on
something
each one.
else? I mean,
Yeah,
Nick, you
so
might know.
the, obviously the policy will live in the policy manual, so it can be seen by anybody, but we're removing there used to be a little form that you would just sign on the bottom. That's actually another thing that's being roped into the registration process. So you're gonna have a section called acknowledgements. And it's gonna be forms like this where we can actually direct you to a form that you can read and then you can say, yes, I agree to this. So then it's tied to that registration process and account. So while the policy will live anywhere for people to see and they can be reminded of, it'll live on the website at a specific location. It's also going to be linked into the registration process specifically. So that's where somebody would actually sign it. So it will be in multiple locations on the website to be seen.
Will this also go into the print handbooks?
I think in most cases, policies don't specifically go into the print handbooks. I think they're more referenced. And I think that on the online versions, you can see you have a hyperlink to the policy. But I don't think we currently have a practice of.
It'll definitely be referenced, but it's a very big policy.
So,
Sure.
two things. One, will they have to sign it before they get issued a notebook? And two, is there something in there that says, if you use our technology, we automatically assume that you agree to these terms and conditions, just like if you go onto any website?
Yeah, so this week, we're going to be sending out a basic email to all families saying, hey, we're going live with this online registration process. Please be on the lookout for new information. Eventually, as we get closer to that time period, I'm at the understanding that we will be able to individually email people with information, including instructions as to how they go about signing up. They'll be given, links and things like that to be able to go to the page that they need to do. Again, there's, as Ruben said, on the right-hand side, there's going to be a section in which you can have hyperlinks for documents. There's going to be a section called acknowledgements that corresponds to a section on the registration process. Underneath acknowledgements, I believe currently there's 5 separate acknowledgements that you will read. Go to the website and read, and then you have a spot that says either yes or no, I agree to these terms. So it's going to be a spot as a part of the registration process. Then it'll be linked into the account through the registration that they have either agreed or not agreed to things like this policy being photographed, so on and so forth.
So if it's not signed and therefore they don't agree,
Mhm.
are they still going to get issued a notebook.
But
A Chromebook,
The
that's beyond my scope. I would,
I mean, it's kind of ridiculous to have
They
technology.
need to acknowledge the
Yeah, I would-
policy in order to, to utilize the
School
district
property.
equipment.
yeah, I would assume there'd
And
be
the
a
network
discussion.
and so forth. So
the previous.
it's really,
acknowledgement
it's,
had
you
that.
acknowledge that you read it and you understand it. And these are our policies, these are the rules that we abide by. And so if they don't click on it, well, first of all, it will prompt them that they have to, select that yes or no, but
So the previous acknowledgement form, which I imagine most of it will be retained just in an online format, literally said students will not be issued Chromebooks or electronic devices until this form is signed and returned.
Right.
So I imagine
Yeah.
that whatever that is where it lives
Be worded
will also
similar.
have similar.
I mean, again, the benefit of this system is that it automatically is gonna catalog everything for people to see, so you're gonna be able to see. These are all the,
You
you
get a
can't
Chromebook.
not
You need
select
to
an
sign it.
option, and it's gonna say, here's everybody who said yes, here are the people that said no. Then you could have, administrators reach out to those families and have further discussions, and yeah, if we have it in the policy existing, then.
I think the process worked where, for years, I don't know if it was the last 3 years, but previously, everybody was granted the time in because it took time to gather the paperwork. And then after a certain number of weeks, Mike Cotton would shut off the accounts of the ones that did not have the approval. And then we'd have to go back to them.
Hopefully it should be quicker now with.
the goal is that we'd open this up.
We're hoping,
Mid-August.
yeah, we're hoping to open up
And
second
have
week.
this information as much as
before
possible
school starts.
done before school, the first day of school. So that we have that, we want as much information as possible the first day. So we're not gonna get 100%, but it'll be certainly a lot higher than what we've had in the past.
To Lisa's question, there is a technology resources section of the parent learner handbook, at least for the middle school and high school. And I understand that this accessible use is for all the grades, but in this particular handbook, there are small referenced sections to acceptable use, privileges, online safety, that all of those pieces. So it may be that as the different schools look at their handbooks, that they may, to Nick's point, because this is all available by electronic. We don't print very many handbooks physically. So it would be great to have a link to the website, which is also on this, but to that section of the policies. Because it is a multi-page product. It's huge.
Policy is developed by looking at our existing policy for staff. Looking at Oyster River's policy and the Monadnock Regional School District's policy, and also NHSBA, so New Hampshire School Board Association. And so there's a blend of everything.
So if anyone has comments now, you can certainly let me know. But if you think of anything, policy will be meeting on Thursday, so you can email myself. And we will use that for discussion at our meeting.
All right, so then we have a second reading of IHCD about advanced coursework, AP, dual enrollment, that type of thing. So I don't know if there's any further thought on this. John?
Just a question. I noticed that the coursework we do support, the guidance program will support any student who wants to take courses through dual and concurrent enrollment or through online learning, but the financial responsibility is the parents, it's not the district. Do we have any kind of an account or number of courses that our students can take through distance learning? And what kind of a fee system is there that they charge?
Well, first of all, I believe this is one of the policies that we have to have in order to take advantage of the free community college credits that are courses that are open to, I think it's sophomores and above. So in the area of STEM. So I think there afforded two, I believe, two free ones, at the minimum anyway. So that's one thing. So that would not be a cost. We don't have a practice of, paying for different coursework in different places or have any sort of avenue for them to kind of log in and do any sort of distance learning that way at this point in time. There are some Running Start courses that we take here. I believe their parents pay like a nominal fee to make sure that if they do well, they can go to college credit. But we have some work, and it's in our multi-year plan that we'll be proposing, that is going to focus on the increase of dual and concurrent instruction and courses for our learners, and the increase in ELO participation as well as internships. That's different from this.
So like the VLAX program, is that still,
Well,
That's not-
VLAX, yeah, VLAX is a little bit different. That's open to any New Hampshire, well, it's open to anyone, but free to any New Hampshire student. So you can enroll in VLAX, so that you're not really a student at this school. Or you can take individual courses there. Now, we tend to, except for this time where we had the pandemic situation, we're a little more flexible with it, but we tend to allow certain courses to be taken that we don't offer here or something like that. So yeah, they have access to all of those. And some of them are for our college credit bearing. You can through VLAX. So there are some that they provide.
so our students don't get charged for those, or we don't get charged for them?
I don't know the answer to the question about VLAX's college courses, whether you get to pay for those or not. I don't know. that
I
answer.
meant like the high school.
But the high school ones, no, they're free. It's a charter school.
It's a charter school, yeah, so it falls under the funding of the New Hampshire charter schools.
Okay.
Any other questions around this one? Or are we ready for a motion? All right, someone?
I'll move we accept the policy on advanced coursework and advanced placement courses.
Right, and dual and concurrent.
And yes,
Yeah, all that.
right.
All right, thank you, Charlie. Thank you, John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain? 700. Thank you. Board committee updates. I can tell you that we had a finance committee meeting and John wasn't present, so I took notes. So I apologize in advance for my chaotic here. Okay, so things that we did. We reviewed the stipend list, and if I misspeak number-wise, please, someone correct me. But it's roughly 390,000 in stipends. Okay, so far. Okay, good. So what we did is we reviewed the different categories of the stipends. We found that like one school might be calling a stipend one thing and another school something else, but actually the same thing. So we've asked for schools to like be more uniform. Let's call it one thing. And then we'll understand that at all schools, it's called this, and this is what's going to happen, rather than, well, what does this one mean if it's not that? You know, those kind of questions. So just kind of clean up the language a bit. And yeah, we just reviewed different categories of stipends and noted like there's one in high school, middle school, but there isn't in elementary, and yet there's going to be, you know, stuff like that. So again, just kind of looking at the different categories, looking at the language, trying to clean that up a bit. We also talked about the ESSER fund, 1, 2, and 3 phases of that, or versions of that, or iterations, I guess. So in the first one, we still have a couple thousand left. Is of our meeting, okay. And then of the second and the third one, we're combining some to the tune of nearly 3 million for HVAC. We got the final okay on that?
We do not have the final okay. We have turned everything in that they have needed to at the state. Tim Carney came and visited us. Now Tim Carney has not been working there very long. He was brought in to actually deal with this issue of approving these types of these federal projects for construction purposes. And he came and visited with John 2 Fridays ago, I guess it was, and then told us that, hey, you guys are well on your way, and you got so many more documents that you need to fill out or have the people you're working with fill out. So to my knowledge, everything has been sent to the Department of Education and is in his hands to approve.
Okay,
He indicated that even those who have been approved still hadn't done all their paperwork
right.
to get it all. So we're just plugging through and doing it the straight way, kind of not the roundabout
Right.
way. Yeah.
All right. I was hoping by now we.
I was hoping by 2 months ago. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. And we have what, like 800,000 yet to come.
Mhm.
And also I have a note here that 20% of it has to be set aside for direct education. Is that correct?
Yes, it's roughly 500,000. So that's why we have about 2.85, 2.9 that we can use on the HVAC. And then the other amount has to go toward supporting learners in closing the educational gaps,
The
learning
gap
gaps and so
of-
forth. Yep.
Pandemic. Okay. So that's what I've got for finance. Charlie, do you have anything to add?
You did quite well.
Why, thank you. All right, policy, I mean, we've looked at the policies, we've had discussion. You say you're meeting again Thursday? All right. Did I recall that communication was going to be meeting?
Trying.
Yeah, so we were supposed to meet today, but we had, not everybody had committed, and then we had some people that weren't able to make it. So we canceled the meeting. Instead, because the main point of today's meeting was supposed to be feedback for a new round of the communication plan. Instead of trying to get people together for a meeting, because we didn't really have a good consensus, I'm gonna craft a survey tomorrow, send it out to all communication committee members so that we can gather more feedback. We were also discussing the idea of opening it back up to the community again and sending out a different version of a survey for community members and staff members, just to make sure that we're being all inclusive, with a goal of having a communication plan draft to the school board by the second meeting in August, so the 16th, I believe. And then the other thing that we were going to discuss was the state of the website. I just checked in and waiting to hear back from our project coordinator today, just to see where we're at and what the timeline is currently. We sent some more documentation a couple weeks ago relative to the mapping out of our custom app. So that's currently in development. We do have drafts of all of our websites at this point in time. They are working on adding in all of the information right now. So they're essentially a little bit more intensive than this, but kind of copying information from our old website, moving it over to the new website. There are some pages that I asked them not to touch because there are opportunities for us to consolidate and change things for the better. So rather than having them copy a bunch of stuff just to change it, have them keep it blank so that we can, retool it. So we're at a place where I think I'd like to meet with the administrative teams from the middle and the high school to make sure that everything's heading in the right direction, because we're now beyond the kind of broad strokes and we're getting into some of the nitty gritty. I want to make sure that placements are accurate and things like that to best reflect the individual, schools. So things are looking pretty good, and I'm hopeful, and I should know more, in the next couple of days, that we should be able to go live either before the start of the school year or very early into the start. There are some features that might not be live at start just because there are some other connections that we have to make internally related to staff specifically, just making sure that we're feeding our directory appropriately so that it can be live and a little bit more responsive and reactive than our current one.
Great. Thank you. Education committee, we're meeting Monday. Do we have a time?
5:30?
Is it 5:30?
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. Facilities, you had a meeting today?
Yes, we did, and we went over a bunch of things. We met for a couple of hours. The Facilities garage is now finished. At least we have a verbal occupancy permit. The emergency notification system, electronic locks was installed, but we ran into a problem. Apparently, the manufacturer had a subcontractor who failed to install the glass screens properly, and a number of them came loose. So those have been taken down. The manufacturer is going to address the problem. And it's our understanding that we should still have them in place and functioning by the start of school.
Okay, good.
Some work on, we talked about the JRMS shop renovation. There's some issues there relating to ventilation, which we need to look at. District flooring and painting, I guess there's not going to be too much painting going on this year, but there is plans to do some flooring. That seems to be the bigger concern on the part of the schools that were targeted, particularly the elementary schools.
As I say, RMS, I think is in need.
Also, yeah. District landscaping, we're still looking for a landscaper. John went out to bid or requested bids and did not get much of a response. So we're looking for somebody to do some landscaping work throughout the district.
Can I ask what, when you're talking about landscaping work, are we talking about plantings? Because we have someone who does mowing, right? So we're looking for establishment of new gardens. Is that what you're looking for?
Establishment of new gardens in places where we've done some upgrades, such as in front of the facilities garage area. And then places where basically the landscaping is not prospering or where it's,
Mhm.
lacking.
Yeah,
I
I
guess
think that's
as-
a good way of putting it. Lacking.
Yeah. We talked quite a bit about HVAC. Ruben gave you a brief update there on the status of the ESSER funds. And it sounds like the state, at first was waiting on some kind of assurances from the federal government. But now at this point, it seems like the state's approval process is what's really dragging or slowing us down. So we're not sure. We do expect to get approval. It's just a question of will it happen next week or will it be, next month or even later. So we have EEI pending. We've got some concerns because we know they wanted to get that work done early because they anticipate, EEI anticipates being very busy next year. So we're sort of in a little bit of a bind. It sounds like we may be doing work during the year. Over vacations and at other times. And Ruben, I don't know if you want to add anything there on that one. That's a big one, obviously.
No, not at this point. Just that we started to have some conversations about, even though we're still trying to get this approved and I'm always thinking about the future, all right, but we also wanted to get the rest of the building done as well. So we're having those conversations simultaneously to see what is possible and what has to be done. What do we have to do? What the project has to look like perhaps in order to make sure that we can get things done sooner than later.
Yeah.
Not dealing with funds that are not related to federal funds.
Well, this is something we're going to be pending on pretty carefully over the coming months. The transformer was already mentioned. That's a surprise, but part of our electrical system upgrade, I guess, right? You can look at it that way. We're planning on upgrading as a part of this HVAC upgrade our electrical system. And there's just one other thing I'd mention, and it relates to the finance committee. I think the finance committee recommends that we get some additional assistance, staffing assistance for facilities manager. And the reason for this is basically, we are trying to upgrade a group of older buildings. And this is the time between ESSER funds and the potential for maybe some building funds coming available next year or the next year and a half, that we feel like we should be ready to move on a bunch of issues, the HVAC, paving, and just a whole range of other areas where we want to make sure we're prepared. One of the things that we're looking at, which we hope is not going to be a negative surprise, is the RMS septic system, which has not been maintained, we believe, as it should have been. But at this point, we don't have plans in hand, and we're trying to get those. That's something that we feel like John shouldn't spend too much of his time, John Leclerc, because he's got a lot of other things on his plate. And we're looking at trying to get Trey, to get more of Trey's time involved working in facilities.
So doing like project management.
So we think that the superintendent needs to evaluate the resources needed and suggest some alternatives for
And
doing
approach.
some of the things that we feel need to be done.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
You don't have any particular people in mind?
Yes, that's true, Charlie. Thank you for that correction.
No, we definitely don't have people in mind. Matter of fact, it's hard to get people right now in this economy. But yeah, no, to look at that, to look at, if we, we are at an exciting time. It's interesting because things change so drastically, really month to month and even more so recently. And as we make leaps, actually, we've really made some leaps in the past year and a half, 2 years. As we do that, in some cases, we find out, oh, we improved this. And then through that improvement process, we found out so much more. And I feel like that's almost every area. We prove a curriculum area or an instruction area, and then, oh, wow, we've uncovered something else. The business department right now is for the last 6 months been increasing their focus on implementing this, iVisions and Infinite Visions, as opposed to the product that we've been using for all these years that really wasn't built for schools. And that's been a massive undertaking. And so when you do that, you start to find out other things. You start to find out your efficiencies. And so I think
Or lack thereof.
or lack thereof, just we want to keep on improving and not staying status quo. So what can help us get there? And I think one of the conversations was, support, that level of support. And do we need it there? Do we need it in other locations as well? Do we have some part-time roles that we've put into the budget, but really we're getting no biters? Do we couple those things together? So to Charlie's point, research, figure out what's happening in the budget, come back and propose some efficiencies.
Because like Ruben said, we're finding out more and more things that we didn't know and we should have known. And in order to know those things, it's a heavy lift to get them all into a software application that will let us know that these things exist and we need to do something about them. So,
And then once you have that documentation, it was noted today that that's the type of documentation that's helpful when you want to go for some sort of a project. You need to be able to prove to the Department of Education or elsewhere that you have a maintenance plan in place and you've maintained facilities appropriately, so you're not just waiting for everything to collapse and then asking them for money to fix things.
and then also we had a discussion and we believe that even though it's a heavy lift, it's not a one-time thing. Because once you do that lift to put all of those things onto an application that identifies what needs to be done, you're now identifying more work to be done. So the work doesn't go away. So that's why we're
Just
talking
becomes
in
clearer.
terms of resources. Okay, because once you do the lift and you get all those things in there, now you end up with more things to do because you didn't know you had to do them before.
This is sounding a lot like that. There are things we know we don't know, and then there's things we don't know we don't know.
Yeah, but
Well,
once we know
tribute
the
to the
things we don't
history.
know, Don't have to do something about it, right?
It's exciting. really. It's been an exciting couple
just
of
keep
years.
saying it.
It's been an exciting couple
Oh, I
of
get the
years
shivers.
of uncovering
I'm the
thing after thing after thing. But it has been. There's been lots of opportunity. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of opportunity.
Lots of growth. That's
There has been a lot of
exciting
growth,
in a
yeah.
way.
Another growth
Yeah.
opportunity.
Right.
Yeah. So I have a question around facilities. I know we just had a huge rainstorm. I believe I heard 7.5 inches. How did our grounds fare? Because I know of some places where like things were completely washed out in the community. And other things fared okay. I'm just curious. How
No,
did
it's
we
a
fare?
good, it's a good question. We did have some flooding at RMS. I think that's a major place where we had some problems. And
I know driving home from the
Yes.
facilities meeting, there was still water pouring out of the storm drains in Jeffrey when I was going down 202. Coming out of the drain, going across the
Oh,
road.
yeah. Only up, not going down.
Yeah, so we did have some flooding in some areas that impacted some classrooms, but I don't think any damage, real damage was done. And it was minor compared to what I thought could be.
Right.
We've had past issues with that JGS. Actually, that was a place I was concerned about, and seemingly it is okay.
That's-
We
that's-
had, that being the case, this is not the only storm we've had, and so the prior storm, we did have some trees and limbs and so forth fall, and also that we have to deal with.
I guess I was afraid of the Ringe parking area that we've stripped. And then, did we have?
we seem to have made out okay there.
That's good. Okay, good, good.
I asked Lisa when we were walking in if she had walked past the parking lot and if she had seen any damage, and she said,
I haven't seen any damage, but I am concerned about the septic there.
Mm-hmm.
That's, if anything is going to put something over the edge, the amount of rain you just had is certainly something. So if that could be monitored, like just, I'm sure they are. I don't want to. Certainly
Yeah, I mean,
report
there,
it, but,
there are issues and some of them go back a ways. One of the things that was brought up today, I think John informed us, was that the drainage system for rain water can back up out of it's connected to the drains, the interior drains. So the stormwater drains are connected to the interior drains. Now, this is something that was done a long time ago. Can we fix it? We're not sure that we can, but it is something we're probably going to take a look at and see if there's an easy fix with modern technology. But again, it's one more thing on John's list to
That's a big thing.
All right. So goals, I know that goals doesn't meet on a monthly, it's more of a quarterly, right? But when's the last time?
We would like to set a meeting. Me being a new person and never had a meeting in it. I would love to know when we're meeting. I actually don't know who's on it.
On the committee.
Okay.
I'm on it
I'm not on it, so.
and I'm not on it either.
I tend to be on it.
I think you tend to be on all.
Yeah, and it's good that we're, at least waiting to after the education committee.
Yes.
Because I think there's a lot of goals set in there and like, I have 50 pages of it. So the first week in August is not horrible. Second week I won't be here. But that would be first week in August, when it might be a good time if people on the
Alright.
committee would like to meet.
Do you want to maybe do one of your survey?
Yeah,
things?
just find out. So goals.
Yeah, for the goals committee, send it like available in that first week.
Are there specific individuals or is it to everyone?
No, there's specific.
I only know I'm on it. I honestly haven't any idea.
We have the list, so,
Yeah.
so we'll be able to.
Yeah. All right, great.
Was involved, and then there was only one more thing having to do with, that I remember about meetings. Nick, was it the second week in August that we were thinking about getting that group back together for the opening planning?
Yeah, so we had discussed the idea of, we kind of had this quick timeline that we had to, work with for the reopening plan. And we had discussed meeting again in August, just to kind of look at data, see if we have any recommendations, see if we want to make any changes before the start of the school year. And I'll probably send something out short within this week or maybe next to those same members and just seeing if we can meet the second week of August so that we could, if we have any recommendations, we could do it for that second school board meeting. So it would be before the start of the school year. We do technically have another one the day before the start of the school year. I wouldn't want to wait till the day before to make changes. So we're looking at trying to get people together before that so that if we have to have a discussion, it can be during that the third week. So
There's been, I mean, we've been following guidance and reading it, and so far it's been fairly mellow until today.
Yeah.
Today's WMUR reported out on the pediatric, American pediatric thoughts on the matter. So
Which is contrary to CDC.
actually, there's a few contradictions, different groups. So at some point in time, it's gonna be tough to decide which group to go with, and it might be New Hampshire DPHS, that might be the reliable group that we will probably want to focus on as opposed to see these national groups,
Yeah, something that's.
something that's more local. Yeah.
What was this was the American Academy of Pediatrics came out with their reopening suggestions. Is that true?
Well, not all complete, but they came out recommending universal masking in schools for everyone older than 2.
Who is on the reopening framework committee? Is that like who is, when you're saying we're gonna try to do a meeting, is that open to anybody or is that?
no, it was a specified committee. It was about 16 or 17 individuals. What we did was we took the original committee that had formed last summer, which was about 50 people. And in the interest of time, we cut it down so that we had more, 1 to 3 representatives from different stakeholder groups. So I don't have that list off the top of my head. It is in the opening pages of the reopening framework. So, there's, folks from JREA, JRSSA, administrative, parents, and maybe a few others. So it is a specific group of people.
There's some local first responders and
Yep.
individuals who work in that community hospital.
And then nurses from the school
And the
district.
nurses, yeah. So, and the nurses have been continuing to meet with, not necessarily a person, but connect with Dr. Chan. About some of that.
All right, so the last committee that's not really a board committee, but we usually have represented on it is the wellness. Is anything happening with wellness? that you're
They
aware of?
meet August 30th.
Thank you. You're on that. committee,
Yes.
aren't you? All right. Okay, great. Thanks for all that. Hopefully we'll get our meetings more regular and go back to not having every committee report out every meeting.
Is it possible to have, I saw that there was a listing on the website of last year's committee meeting dates.
So part of the issue with that calendar was it was created and not followed as well. Like if you look at that calendar versus the actual list of agendas, they're 2 very different lists.
Okay.
So part of what I'm working to do is to try to get each committee to declare this is our stable meeting time. And then we can, obviously you can meet more frequently than that, or you can, kind of change up your meetings as needed. It doesn't obligate you to follow it, but the goal last year was to try to
We're trying to normalize.
normalize
That'd be
things
really
as
nice,
much as
yeah.
possible and, just a renewed effort to do that this year. I think
Right.
facilities, finance, and policy have all given me a directive as to their normal meeting time. So obviously goals, they meet a little less regularly, communication a little less regularly, and then education, just kind of nailing a stable meeting time.
Yeah.
So
And are the school board meetings updated on the website as well? I hadn't seen that.
the
So-
calendars and everything.
Exactly.
Yes. Let's see, I can show you real quick.
Yeah, I actually tried to find the meeting last week and couldn't find.
So you go to school board. You can go here. This is where all our active agendas are posted. And we have all our backdated years. You can go to the meeting calendar, which shows you all of our meetings.
Great.
And then also, if you go to calendars and the calendar page. We have all of those set up as well. So,
Perfect, thank you.
yep.
Okay, we're up to public comments again.
All right, so again, we're in public comments, round 2. Policy is up on the screen or your computer screen at home. And first name, last name, town of residence before you speak. If you're digital, use the hand raise feature. Just remember the rules, that are listed here. All right, I don't have anybody.
That's okay. Thank you. Any board matters?
Yes,
Yes.
given the status of the parking lot. When we announce next agenda for first part of August, can we put on there where we want people to park
Yeah, a good picture map might be helpful.
in case there's any in-person visitors or?
Anything else?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, future items?
We'll have a lot of, well, August is like actually the biggest month of every single year, right? So this year is gonna be a little bit bigger because we'll be providing,
Yes.
we'll be providing some pretty serious goals and so forth. And then even when you accept, or if you will accept if you accept some of the goals or you accept the goals, you might say, but we'd also like you to continue working on this communication strategy for the goals or whatever, there might be more that you will want done at that point in time. Maybe that's part of the goals. But then we'll have, of course, our usual documents that we have to bring forward to you for approval.
All right.
And the another communication plans, yeah, and some other plan.
Lots of plans.
Lots of plans.
I think the big issue over the month of August is going to be the opening. And that's it.
All right. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, then I'm ready for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you, Patty.
I'll second Patty's motion.
Thank you, Alicia. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? All right, great. Thanks, everyone.